Coach Laddiser and myself and our entire coaching staff, we have a very similar philosophy about what we're trying to create. We actually just finished a spring season. We had to fight as a coaching community. We had to fight to get some games in. Obviously, we normally play in the fall, and we normally have a 10-game regular season and 6 weeks of playoffs. This year, we were able to get 6 games in. Thankfully, we were able to get all 6 in. We didn't have any positive COVID tests. We had to get tested weekly. It was a mess. It was hard, but we were very thankful. We had for our seniors to be able to get that in was something that was vital to what we really wanted to do. Because imagine being a teenager and you work your entire high school career and you look forward to your senior year and then you don't actually get one in. So we're thankful we just ended one. We had our team banquet last night, and in about 2.5 hours, I got the next batch of Spartans coming in because we got workouts because we have another season starting in 2.5 months. So it's gonna be a quick turnaround. I got to tell you, my wife's not too happy with me right now, but she supports, and we'll do what we can. And it looks like we're gonna be back to normal. Looks like we're scheduling a 10-game season. It looks like we're gonna be this year. We can only play teams from the area, so either our county or an adjacent county. Looks like that's going to be opened up quite a bit. And it looks like we could be playing some out-of-state teams and kind of ramping up to try and get a really big schedule again. And ultimately, hopefully getting to that state championship again and beating one of those teams in Southern California that pretty much resemble USC or UCLA these days. They're pretty incredible, but it's fun to play against the best. So we're trying to get over that mountain. I'm going to share my screen and just go over essentially what we do at De La Salle and how we approach kids. There a lot of people may hear things or may have a misconception and they like that. What we do though is very simple. It's hard and it's demanding. At our team banquet last night, I thanked the parents for a lot, entrusting the kids into our care, because you have to make sacrifices if you're going to send your son to De La Salle. I know my parents sacrificed to send myself and my brother to De La Salle, and I'm grateful and glad that they did. And I let them know that this school's hard and our football program's hard, and we're hard and demanding as coaches. And I didn't apologize for that. There's a big difference between being understanding and apologizing. In today's day and age, teenagers are different now than they've ever been. And I'm not trying to do a glory days thing here where kids used to be tougher or this or that, but with the advent of social media and instant gratification and a real me first push kind of going on in society, we're seeing the dynamic kind of change. And we're kind of swimming upstream against that and understanding that kids are individuals and we need to value them as individuals. But ultimately, it's what they do in our community that is something that is the thing that we're most concerned with. I'm going to share my screen so I get my PowerPoint up real quick here. Okay, the goal, and this is something that Coach Laddiser and myself, we are in direct alignment with. Our offense is a little bit different than it used to be under Coach Ladd. It's a little more varied, things like that. Football-wise, we're 99% the same as far as how we think and everything. But as far as how we approach kids, we're identical. And our goal is working towards an authentic team experience. What does that mean? What does that actually mean to work towards an authentic team experience? For us, there's 3 major goals that we're really trying to get through. I'm going to go through some of them and add on to them. The first one is we want our kids to get tougher. And you can see in this picture right here, that young man, he has he has a tire inner tube strapped around his waist, and he's pulling. Those are small, sometimes small tractor tires or very big truck tires. And that's hard. And we do that. We're going to be doing that later today, and we're going to do that for about 7 months a year. And why? Because it's challenging. It's difficult. We want our kids to be able to overcome adversity. That's what it means to be tough. It's not this fake machismo thing where they can win a fight or anything like that. Toughness is the ability to overcome adversity. And that's something that we're always working towards. The second thing that we're always working towards is they need to understand that they are valued and their efforts matter. In other words, what they do is important to them and the people around them. And then the third thing is, don't be selfish. Understand that you are not the center of the universe. You are valued, but you are a member of a community. And what you do for, we essentially try and create a brotherhood here. What you do for your brothers around you is more important than what you are as a star athlete or how many yards you got or anything like that. For us, we have the idea that the team spirit or soul is the collective sum of all of our individual personalities. So this is sort of the catch-22. We want to value all of our individual kids. We want to place value on them. And we understand my best player is the team MVP this year. His name's Alumbaugh Hearns. He has dreadlocks down to his shoulders. He has a 4.1 GPA. He's going to play football at Cal Berkeley. His makeup and his background is far different than a sophomore lineman that I have, whose name's Derek Thompson, and he's a big 6'3", 290-pound kid. Their backgrounds are different. Their personalities are different. I don't want everybody to be the same. That would be idiotic as a coach. And we're many things, but I don't think idiotic is one of them. We want to value them as individuals, but how do we collectively get these individual pieces to make up a team? And that's hard. I'll be honest. That's the biggest challenge that we face in coaching. It's not the X's and the O's. It's the idea that we have to fit these individuals into the team dynamic. How do we value all of these kids as individuals, fit them into the team dynamic, but don't detract from the team dynamic? There's little things that we do. We don't have any single digit numbers. You can see in this picture right here, every kid is wearing the exact same thing. There's no deviation from our uniforms. The only one that's different is the gentleman in the middle. I'm circling him right there. Because he had dislocated his elbow earlier in the year, so he has a pad on his elbow. All the uniforms are the same. No jewelry is allowed. At our school, there's no facial hair. You have to have clean cut hair. There's all of these things that we're not trying to strip kids of being individuals, but we're trying to get them to understand that essentially the number on the front the name on the front is more important than the name on the back. It's valued, the name on the back, Marquise Morris, the kid in the front right there. It is very important that his name is Marquise Morris, where he comes from and who he is. But as far as a team goes, the De La Salle on the front is the thing that we're all ultimately going to adhere to. That means that we have to break down we love The Simpsons and we talk about it all the time. That means we have to, as coaches, break down every single individual personality and target them and figure out a way for each of them to ultimately adhere to what we're trying to do as a team. The toughness, the camaraderie, the idea that the team is more important than the individual. So we have a guy like this, Jake Slackenberry. The slackers is always a term. You have some kids that are naturally just hardworking and tough and grinding. You have some kids that are more quiet. You have some kids that are lazier. You have some kids that need to be yelled at for motivation. You have some kids that if you yell at them, they're going to get demotivated. They don't want to hear you yell. If I yelled at Lou Hearns this year, he'd want to kill me. He didn't need me to motivate him. He didn't need me to yell at him to motivate him. He was a self-motivator. That's why he's going to Cal Berkeley. He did not need me to get after him. We have some kids that if we do not try and overtly motivate them, they will not challenge themselves. So that's the biggest thing. And that's actually what we spend most of our time as coaches doing. And as the head coach, I try to kind of facilitate all of our assistant coaches because they're the ones that see the kids behind closed doors a little bit more than me. When I was an assistant coach and I was the strength coach and I coached the offensive line and the linebackers, the dynamic is different. You joke with them a little bit more. You kind of get some of the back scenes, the scenery that's going on behind things. As the head coach, you're kind of dictating things, and the assistant coaches really work, on the day-to-day with all of those kids, and they do an incredible job. And those guys do not get enough credit for what we do here. I know a lot of times the name of the paper is Coach Lattiser or Coach Alumbaugh or whatever it is. Our assistant coaches are the one that do a ton of the legwork. One of the other things that we do, and this is very, very new and not new. We've been doing it since 1992, but it's different. And most teams and most schools and most kids do not do this. We have our kids, we do a seminar, and then we also do weekly commitment cards. This is the seminar, but the commitment cards are hugely important to what we do. And what we do with our commitment cards, an individual, they write down on a 3x5 card. They don't put it on their phones. They write it down with a pen or a pencil, and then they sign their name to it. They make game goals. So they're gonna, if you're a starter, you may say, I want to make 90% of my blocks. I want to, a technique goal. I want to get my second step down before contact 90% of the time. They have to be specific and attainable. and they have to be measurable. That's new. We never allow something like, I'm going to give 100% effort, because that is lame. Who can possibly dictate whether a kid, a 17-year-old, is giving 100% effort? Can we tell if you rushed for 200 yards? Yes, we can. Can we count it up where 90% of the time your first step was in the direction that it was supposed to be as an offensive or defensive lineman? Yes, we can. Those are specific, those are attainable, and those are measurable. We also have them do practice goals. The practice goals are very similar to the game goals, but we focus on a very simple thing. What is it that you need to work on a daily basis to get yourself better? Because if you're getting yourself better, you're ultimately improving the team. Now, if you're a starter, your goals are going to be a little bit different than if you're maybe a scout team player. And we take a huge amount of pride in our scout team. 2 of our players won team awards, and all of our team awards are voted on by our actual team. And my heart swelled when I heard this last night. 2 of our team awards, 2 of our kids, they got a players award. They weren't MVP or anything like that, but they got a players award for special recognition, and they're both scout team players. They never started a game, but the team respected all the effort and all the work that they put into as a scout team player, that they thought that they deserved special recognition, just like our MVP, Lou Hearns. So a scout team player might be saying, every play that Derek Thompson, our starting guard, is, I'm going to be in, and I'm going to get my pad level lower than him 50% of the time. That's going to make Derek Thompson better as our starting guard. And then we put a strength and conditioning goal. And here's the best part. They have to commit it to someone. They stand up in front of the team and they say, these are my goals, and I commit this to X and X player. So Derek Thompson, he's an offensive lineman. He's a sophomore. He would oftentimes commit to, we had a senior 3-year starter, and he was our most valuable lineman, John Puckett. He's going to Cal to play rugby. His brother's at Cal playing rugby as well, and he played center for us as well. We got a lot of rugby players, former football players that are playing rugby at Cal and St. Mary's. It's great to go to those games. But Derek Thompson would oftentimes commit to John Puckett, who's a senior, and he played right next to him. And then John Puckett, while we're doing films, while we're going over films throughout the week, and we film every single snap of every single practice and every single game. So we go through everything. It's kind of nuts, but it's something that helps drive our success. As we go through the week and as we're going through film, these guys have their commitment cards out and they're writing down whether these guys did it. And then we review them in our team meeting the day before a game. We review the previous week's game, the previous week's practice, and our strength and conditioning goals. And it's a way of making kids, this is the best part. This is the best part. It makes kids actually think about what they need to do. And it's amazing. Kids think less and less about what they're supposed to be doing or how they're going to get it. They don't spend much time making actual commitments, making actual goals, and thinking about, if I make this goal, what are the steps in which I'm going to need to take in order to achieve these goals? That's why it's a tiered goal system where it's a game goal or multiple game goals. We got practice goals and we got strength and conditioning goals. Our strength and conditioning goals, getting stronger, getting faster. That's going to help us in practice. Our practice goals, when we're going to work on our technique and hone our craft, that's going to help us out better in the game. If we're doing better in the game, we're helping the team. It's a tiered system, and it forces these kids to actually think one very clear question. How am I going to get better? And that's hard for kids to do. And we spend a lot of time on this, a lot of time. And everybody, when we had the streak and people ask me what my record is, I actually have no idea what my record is. I've won a lot more games than I've lost. I know that. Beyond that, I have no idea. Bob Laddister retired with 399 wins. He literally did not, I was sitting with him when he decided to retire. He had no idea that he had 399 wins. We brought it up to him. We're like, hey, what do you think? Why don't you coach one more, get to 400? And he goes, I'm not doing that. That is cheesy and lame. And he didn't. We are not win at all costs. For us, wins are a byproduct if we're doing these things well. If we have a community of kids that are challenging themselves and challenging those around them, we are ultimately going to have success. Winning is not the only thing. Now, obviously, we all want to win. We're competitive, and I'd be lying if I said we don't care about wins and losses. No, we care more about how our kids are behaving and how they're working. Our number one goal is to create that authentic team experience. Our number one goal is not to win games. Winning games is typically a byproduct. Leadership, we spend a lot of time on leadership, and You probably recognize one of the gentlemen in this picture, Austin Hooper. He was a tight end for the Falcons, and he's a tight end for the Cleveland Browns now. He's number 18, and he was a team leader, and he was a team captain. Mike Hutchings is another one. He's number 17. He's now coaching at University of Southern California. He's down at USC, and he played football there. And they're great leaders. And we spend a lot of time on working with other kids. We normally take about 10 to 15 seniors. 10 to 15 seniors and a couple underclassmen, like a junior, that can be relied upon. And we do these weekly leadership seminars because kids, a few of them, a guy like Mike Hutchings there or Lou Hearns from this year, they are natural leaders. They understand what it means to motivate other kids. But most kids don't. So we do training seminars weekly. We have a weekly leadership meeting. We do weekly meetings where we essentially try and give our kids control of the team. We give them parameters in which to do things. And what that does is it creates more ownership with them as a group and as individuals and as a community. I don't know how many times I get, if a kid misses a practice, oftentimes I'll get a senior who comes over to me and he goes, "Coach, this kid's missed practice twice last week and once this week. He's skipping out of practice. I don't want him on the team." And then we bring that kid in with the senior leader that said and we have him repeat it. And obviously these are teenagers. We give him one more chance. We go, if he doesn't like what you're doing one more time, we're gonna have to not have you on the team. This is another misnomer. We actually don't cut on varsity football unless one of two things. One, you are a major injury risk, which most of our kids are not. The second reason why, the only other reason why you would not be allowed on the football team is if, very simple, if you have not made the commitment and our senior leaders are saying that they don't want you on there. As far as, questions, as we're going, put questions in the chat and I'll answer them. I'll answer them at the end. The last thing I want to talk about outside of leadership is I can go into a little Q&A because I've been going for about 25 minutes already. In order to do this, in order for us to improve and instill in these kids what they're supposed to be doing, we have to have a very minute attention to detail. And that's another skill that our kids don't naturally have, this attention to detail. The little things matter. Did you bring your workout clothes? Yes, it matters. Do you have your cleats? Yes, that matters. And we create rules for everything that we do as far as like our offensive line. I'll make it simple with our offensive line. Our offensive line, our technique is very simple, but it's very hard to do. I'll give you the example. This is what our offensive line technique is supposed to be. Our first step is to be exactly 6 inches directly at the play side foot of who we're blocking. Not 10 inches, not 3 inches, exactly 6 inches directly at the play side foot of the person that we're blocking. Our second step needs to split the stance directly. In other words, land right in the middle of the stance of the defensive lineman that we're going to be blocking. There is no variation. There is no deviation. On contact, our hips and shoulders should be almost identically flat. So it creates like a battering ram. These are all these little minute attention to detail things that we do. And I'll show you an example of it. Just like I told you, we film everything in practice. This was practice a couple weeks ago. That's John Puckett. He's our senior. He's the kid that's going to Cal to play rugby. And that's the sophomore, Derek Thompson. You're going to hear a lot more about him. He's good. So this is our offensive line. We're out here on the sled. We're out here grinding with them. And if you can tell, look at all of their pad level. All of them are where they're supposed to be right now. Their stances are how they're supposed to be. I could eat dinner. What we say is I should be able to eat dinner off your guys' backs. Could I put a plate on them? Yes. This is an attention to detail that we spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours doing. Now you can take a look at this. Our first step wants to be 6 inches directly at the play side foot. This one's correct. His first step, Puckett, it comes inside the frame a little bit. He hops. You see how he comes inside? That would be incorrect. And he puts that on a commitment card. This is something that we work over and over and over and over and over on. Derek Thompson, the sophomore, his first step is correct. Let's take a look. The right guard right here. He's in that right guard position right here. First step to the play side foot. Everybody's taking a right foot out right now because that's what I tell them. The defender that we have is over on the right. First step is 6 inches. Second step, you can see, does it directly split the stance of the defender? What we want to do is pretend that this is the man's 2 feet. This directly splits the stance. What that does is it creates essentially a battering ram with our hip and our shoulder directly into the sternum of the defensive lineman in front of us. After that, we bring a club, and it emulates what we're doing if we're doing Olympic lifting. And this is how we should be ending up, almost square. He's correct. Luca Rossi, he's correct. He's a little outside the frame. Almost correct, correct, and correct. And I'll give you an example of what gives us success. These kids will hit the sled. So Derek Thompson's a sophomore. By the time he's a senior, I estimate that he will probably hit that sled 25,000 times. And it's great because because of concussions and how we protect our kids, all of the things going on. We can hit that sled and that bag thousands of times. We never have anybody get hurt, knock on wood, on that sled. And it exactly emulates and mimics what we want to do as an offensive lineman. So I just wanted to show you guys an example of that. And what we do, and that's sort of the success that we create. And we film every practice, and it takes a lot of time to go through all the reps, but it's something that we do that we have to do if we're going to be successful. I'll go through some of the questions in the chat. How many hours do the football players spend in training and seminars? During season, we're allowed a maximum of 18 hours. It's an NCS and CIF rule, and we're normally a little bit under that. We're normally about 17 and a half. That's a combination of workouts, lifting, conditioning, practice, film meeting, and our team meetings and team dinners. Those are typically it. Right now, we're going 4 days a week. We're going 4 days a week for about 2.5 hours in the afternoon. A lot of kids play multiple sports. This year, I think 84% of my team plays multiple sports. I was a 2-sport athlete when I was at De La Salle. I wanted to be a 3-sport athlete, but they wouldn't let me go out for the diving team. I was a good diver and I wanted to go, but they wouldn't let me. I played baseball. I actually played baseball in college. And we encourage our kids to play multiple sports. The multiple sport guys, they just need to make sure that they're checking in with us, and then they're lifting weights with us. They got to lift weights with us. And then they go off to track or baseball or whatever sport it is, and we firmly encourage it. So right now we're going about 10 hours a week right now with our training. It's pretty intensive too. We have I used to be the strength coach until I took over as the head coach, and we have a great strength coach, Mark Wine. The system for motivating kids. So everybody's chipped something in over the years. The commitment cards actually started in 1991 with a man called Steve Alexikos. He was our offensive line coach, and he came in with the idea of the commitment cards. And they used to be a little bit different. And then we started having the seminars, and then we noticed as the years kind of progressed, leadership skills were becoming less and less prevalent. So then we said, well, we need to create a leadership packet. So we have a leadership packet where we sit down and we go through leadership activities and skills with them. And we have a system here at school that we also do. So it developed kind of organically over time into what it is. And it's going to be different in a couple of years than it is right now because the needs of our kids are changing. So we need to change every year. Fred has a question about the impact of the short year on college recruiting. It killed a couple of our kids. A few of our kids, unfortunately, kind of got screwed. It's a double whammy. First of all, we didn't have a fall season. So a lot of kids, colleges like Sacramento State, San Jose State, Cal Berkeley. So if you were an awesome player, you were already offered a scholarship before that. We had about 5 guys on our team this year that if we had a fall season, they would have gotten a Division I or Division II scholarship offer. What we ended up getting is all of them are getting a preferred walk-on spot. And the reason why, so that means they're not getting a scholarship. The reason why is because the scholarships are all gone. They're already handed out. And if they have a good year for a freshman year in college, they'll be able to earn a scholarship. But it's a double whammy because the NCAA granted every college player an extra year of eligibility, but they didn't expand the roster size, if that makes sense. So Sac State, for example, is full. You have 5 years of kids because every kid was granted an extra year. So you have 5 years of kids filling 4 years of roster spots. So they don't have any wiggle room for kids like some of ours and the kids that were in California to kind of come in and get a scholarship or a walk-on. So it's sort of a mess, but the chips are kind of falling, and some of our kids are ending up. One of them looks like he's getting a San Jose State walk-on. One is getting a walk-on at Colorado. So we did what we could. Out-of-state games, ESPN. We are not. People think that we're minting money here over at De La Salle. How do we fund our out-of-state games? ESPN. We don't have a booster club. I'm not allowed to raise money for the football team from a booster club or anything like that. We're treated well. We have all the things we need. We have that nice new sled that you saw, things like that. But if we're going to play an out-of-state game, that is a very expensive game. ESPN needs to come in, and that means that the ESPN those games are typically on ESPN, and ESPN kind of sets those matchups up. We're hoping to have an ESPN game against an out-of-state team, and we're getting ready to cross the T's and dot the I's, hopefully, and then hopefully we'll get one of those. Not every football player ends up in the NFL. Is there tracking of post-player success in college or in their professional life? That's a great question. Dick Frankel asked, what about the kids that, don't go to the NFL and things like that? Do we have success stories and things like that? Anecdotally, yeah, we have a lot of success stories, but actually we asked that question 2 weeks ago of ourselves, because what actually opened our eyes is we had a kid who had a very rough upbringing, a very rough background. He came to De La Salle, and his grandma and his uncle were the ones that had custody of him, and they had to scrap together every penny to get him to come to De La Salle. He graduated 6 years ago, and he went on. He was a great player for us and a great young man, but he came from a real rough background. He ended up going to University of California, Berkeley as an offensive and a defensive lineman for us, and he played rugby at Cal, which a lot of our guys do. And he ended up getting into business school, and he graduated business school, and now he's got this awesome job, and he comes by and volunteers some coaching hours, and we're like, man, his name's Damon Wiley. We're like, it's so great to see how awesome Wiley's doing. We really got to start compiling this. So we don't have that information yet, but that's a great question. It's a question we asked. We asked of ourselves, and we actually sent out feelers through our alumni director to try and kind of compile what's going on. We do have something called the Spartan Spotlight, where when alumni are doing well, they kind of spotlight who's doing what. But we kind of want to do it within the football program and kind of do it from there. Scholastic develop with our sports. Well, first of all, you got to maintain a minimum GPA. We have mandatory study hall. We have a learning center here, and anybody that all of our practice start after all tutoring and all of the study hall. And our team GPA is well over a 3.0. Last year, we were the number 2 GPA out of every football team in Northern California. And that's not because our school's easy. Our kids' grades actually go down. We have it quantified. Our kids' grades go down when they're not in football season. And the reason why is because we structure their time so much that they know during football season, it's go home, eat dinner with family, do homework, watch film, go to bed. Then they come in the next day, study hall, lift, practice, and it becomes so structured, and it becomes so very evident for them exactly what they're supposed to be doing that their grades are actually higher. And it's just sort of the system that we put into place. How are the needs of kids changing? Their social skills are different. And it's not like they're not idiots or anything like that. But what they have going on at home is oftentimes just more. There's more things going on there because they have so much access to so much information. Their phone's going off all the time. Their emails going off all the time. They're inundated with all of this stuff. And there's a new push with all the social media and everything for kids to try. It's like there's this element of perfection. If you become a goofball on social media or something like that, there's all this social media hate, and there's just inundated with so much information that they really need to be able to take the time we don't allow phones at our workouts. We don't allow phones at practice. We don't allow phones at team meetings. It's harder for kids to be present, if that makes sense. It's harder for kids to be present and to be sitting down in front of and to talk to one another. That's one of the biggest needs that we see change, and that's something that we're really working to kind of, help them because it's something that's a skill that they need. This one, Sam asked a question. I get asked this all the time, including when I go to get Starbucks at my local neighborhood Starbucks, and I'm wearing a De La Salle thing. It's easy now though because I got the mask, so nobody asked me anything. But how do we recruit? We don't. I know people don't want to hear that or anything like that. How about this? I'll clue you in. I have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old at home. My weekends are not spent scouting some Pop Warner 7th grader or a 9-year-old or some crazy crap like that. I have better things to do. I'm actually not even legally allowed to talk to a kid if they mention the word football to me. I can't, or else then he's immediately ineligible at any school he goes to, and then it's a recruiting violation for me. I got better things to do. I don't care how good Timmy is as a 9-year-old in Pop Warner. Now, that doesn't mean that people don't email me and all this stuff, and we delete them. Now, obviously, there's a lot of kids that want to come to a great school like De La Salle. We have a 99% college placement rate. Obviously, there's kids that come to De La Salle just because they want to play football at De La Salle. That's fine. That's great. Have at it. We love what we do as a school. But I'm not out talking to kids, poaching kids. Our coaches are not allowed to. I'm sure alumni go around and talk to kids and say, you should be going here and things like that when their kids are on the same little league team. But we're not out there trying to poach kids or any crazy crap like that. John Puckett, our center right there. He's like 185 pounds. Why? And he was awesome. He's like an all-state player. Why on earth would I recruit a 185-pound center? I'm a moron then. I got to recruit better guys. I love that kid, but it's no. I have far better things to do. Kids, yes, they can apply for families can apply for financial aid at De La Salle. It has nothing to do with whether you're good at football or baseball or basketball. I know people don't want to hear that. It's the truth. It's a blind process where you turn in your taxes and people take a look and it's divvied up. The percentage of football players that are on any sort of financial aid is the exact same percentage as number of kids in the school that are on financial aid versus the number of kids in the total school. It's the exact same. So there's no nefarious thing going on or anything like that. I have better things to do. This weekend, I'd like to take my boy to a baseball game, and I want to get him into playing baseball. Last weekend, they got a jump castle, one of those big jump castles. I put that together, and I spent time with them. I'm not going and wasting my time away from my family doing something else. So that's the short version. If there's any last questions, I can cover it, but hopefully I've given you an understanding of what we attempt to do and what we take pride in doing and what we think we do, pretty well. And we're hoping to do great this year. And I'm hoping to do well in about an hour and a half when we're out at practice. Boys have a tough workout today, so I'm looking forward to that. If there's any last questions, please put it in the chat. Otherwise, everybody can go about their Monday. And I appreciate you having me here. I always try and join in when I can. And it's great to see. It's great to see an old face, Mr. Robleski, a face from the past. It's good to see you. And I already did. I told my brother that you're on there, so it's good to see you. All right, everyone. I appreciate you having me. You can. I don't want to close it because I think you made. Am I still co-host? Because I don't want to shut it down in case you guys are still on.